Ladies and gentlemen, the off season has begun. It is officially here. I want to talk about what Brett Veach's plan most likely is going to be to attack this off season. But before we go on that tangent, I want to talk about the Super Bowl. I was out sick last week, wasn't feeling the best, and the Chiefs got their butt kicked. The basics of football: you must tackle and you must block. The Chiefs tackled pretty well, but they did not block very well, and that is why they lost that game. And we all saw why it's so hard to get that three-peat. Now, I was bullish on the Chiefs. I thought for sure with Spagnuolo and Andy Reid running the show, they would lock up that three-peat and do something that was never done before. But any little thing that could go wrong did go wrong in that game, and it was all centered around the fact that they could not block the Eagles' defensive front seven. If the Chiefs are able to block that game, and their blocking is done well, executed at a high level, they would have had a better chance to win. But instead, Mahomes was constantly put under pressure. They could not pick up blocks very well, and that's the name of the game. The rest is history. So looking at that, from a high level, the Chiefs have been to 5 Super Bowls with Mahomes. He is 3-2 in those Super Bowls, and the 2 Super Bowls that he lost was because his offensive line could not stop anyone from penetrating the line of scrimmage. That loss versus Tampa Bay, and now the loss versus Eagles, he was under constant duress. What happened after that loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Well, Brett Veach went buck wild on the offensive line and drafted 2 offensive linemen, signed another, completely revamped that Chiefs offensive line. I don't think this is the same case for the Chiefs going into the 2025 season. I think it's a slightly different issue that Brett Veach needs to address. But knowing what we know in the last 3 years, the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row with a great defense and a good offensive line. I think that's a good formula for the Chiefs. I think Mahomes can cover up a multitude of weaknesses on your offense. And if you have a great defense and you pair it with Mahomes and you give him time to throw the ball, that's a team that's going to win a lot. And we have seen that. So I think the Chiefs are going to double down on that. I don't see them juking or differentiating too far from this game plan or this plan of awesome defense, good offensive line, and then try to take some weapons where we can. Hopefully they pan out. So the Chiefs, knowing what they know the last few years, doing a lot of good things with a great defense and a good offensive line, Brett Veach's plan for this offseason, his goals for this offseason are, number one, to shore up the defense. So this would mean getting ahead of some of your potential long-term defensive contracts. So if Brett Veach could lock up Trent McDuffie and or George Karlaftis to a long-term deal, that would be ideal. If I'm Brett Veach, that's one of my goals this offseason. Let's lock up both of those guys to long-term deals. Regarding defensive free agents for the Chiefs, it could be much worse. Right now, Justin Reid, Nick Bolton, Tershawn Wharton, Charles Omenihu, Derek Nottie, and Mike Pennell are key defensive free agents that are set to hit the free agent market. The questions the Chiefs need to answer for themselves are, do we believe we have replacements for these players? Do we have someone that we believe could play Justin Reid's role on defense, or could we change how we play defense with the current players we have and be as successful? Same thing for Nick Bolton. Do the Chiefs have a player that can be replaced, that can replace Nick Bolton? So for Justin Reid, Maybe the Chiefs are strong on Hicks or Connor, and maybe they like the thought of them replacing Justin Reed. Try to save some money against the cap that way. Or maybe they think Leo Chenal is ready to take on that role that Nick Bolton would be leaving. I think in terms of who can give the most value to the Chiefs and their defense based on who could replace them, I think it would be in the Chiefs' best interest to try and keep a player like Charles Omenihu or some other pass rusher in free agency. I think that the Chiefs' linebacker depth, with Chenal playing pretty well last year, you don't necessarily want to lose Bolton, so the Chiefs should try to keep him, but I would also have a value or a number locked in if I'm Brett Veach, where I say if Bolton wants more than this, I can't do it. So that might be the case. The defensive side of the ball, pass rush, was an issue for the Chiefs last year. The best way they were able to get pressure was by Spags dialing up one of his crazy blitzes. If they were able to get pressure with fewer players more consistently, I think it would help the defense out a lot. So that's where I want the Chiefs to spend some of their efforts this offseason. I want to see them attack the defensive side of the ball. I want to see them go after extensions for their long-term studs like George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie. Pay them early. Otherwise, you have to pay them later, and that price just goes up and up and up, and you'll regret it. And they need to answer the questions of, do we have replacements either on the roster currently or people who we think we could draft that could take over for Justin Reed and Nick Bolton? And then what are we going to do at pass rusher? So they need to solve those handful of things, and I think the defense will be all right. The other puzzle that Brett Veach needs to solve is strengthening the offensive line. Now, the offensive line is having some problems. And one of the biggest problems I have with the offensive line is that I do not believe Jawan Taylor has played up to his contract. And next year, he is slated to have about a $27 million cap hit. I would think the Chiefs should be able to find a starting caliber a right tackle that could play better than Jawan Taylor has for that kind of money. Unfortunately for the Chiefs, Jawan Taylor's contract pretty much makes him uncuttable. So even if they cut him after June 1st, they would get no money in cap savings. It would all be a wash because of the dead money. If they cut him before June 1st, the dead money I think would be around $5 to $10 million. The cap savings would be negative, $5 to $10 million. So you cannot really cut Jawan Taylor next year. Which means that the Chiefs are kind of in a tough space along the offensive line because their offensive line free agents are Trey Smith, DJ Humphries, and Mike Caliendo. If the goal is to shore up the offensive line, then you are going to want to sign Trey Smith long term. However, the money could potentially not be there. And in addition to that, you still have this glaring hole of the issue at left tackle. So, with the left tackle problems the Chiefs are having, they may look towards the draft. But the problem with the draft for the Chiefs is that those day one left tackle starters that are sure things, they're all gobbled up by the time the Chiefs will draft at 31. So then you have to look, okay, well, could they potentially make a trade for a left tackle? Well, left tackle is viewed as the second most valuable position in football behind the quarterback. So if you wanted to make a trade for a left tackle, it's going to have to be something substantial. And so this is the puzzle, I think, that is the most difficult one to solve for Brett Veach this offseason. The left tackle puzzle, and then shoring up the rest of the offensive line. Maybe they could extend Joe Thuney, get his cap hit down. As of right now, the Chiefs have about $8 million in cap space, but if they restructure Mahomes' contract to handle a signing bonus this year and do a couple other things to massage the numbers, they could have anywhere upwards to $70 million in cap space. In addition addition to that, the cap was recently released, the updated cap numbers for 2025, and it ended up being about $10 million more than NFL teams were planning on. So there's going to be a little more money there. But the big two issues for the Chiefs, shoring up the defense, getting those long-term contracts in line for those players that deserve them, stay ahead of the contract numbers, get it done early instead of waiting. That way you pay less now instead of more later. And then shoring up the offensive line is the second biggest issue that Brett Veach needs to address. The last issue that I want to see Brett Veach address, and this could be done via the draft, is that the Chiefs really need someone at the running back position. After Pacheco hurt his leg last year, he just did not look the same. Kareem Hunt was gassed by the end of the year. You can tell. So the Chiefs need a long-term person, a long-term player at the running back position who can produce. You looked at how the Eagles won the Super Bowl. There was a reason why Jalen Hurts was able to keep throwing to wide receivers down the field who were in one-on-one coverage. And that's because they had Saquon Barkley. If you look at Mahomes, that wasn't the case. He had to scan the field once, sometimes even twice, to even find a guy that was open. And that's because the Eagles did not have to respect the Chiefs' run game. Now, part of that is that the Chiefs didn't make them respect it, but the Eagles came into that game not having too much of a concern with what Kareem Hunt could do or what Isaiah Pacheco would do. The Chiefs need a running threat that actually makes the other team respect it. And I think if the Chiefs were able to get a running back who is reliable and could force teams to respect their run game, a lot more things would open up. So those are my three things, the three puzzles that Brett Veach is probably going to try to attack this offseason: shoring up the defense, fixing the offensive line problems, and then getting Mahomes help in the running game. So those are the three big things. But now's your turn to let me know down in the comments, what are your keys for this offseason? What do you think Brett Veach is looking at? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? And since you made it to the end of the video, hit that like button and subscribe if you've not done so already. We love and appreciate each and one of you for participating in this awesome channel with us. And I got nothing but thanks to say to each and every one of you. But this is Gary signing out. Y'all have a good rest of your week and have a good weekend.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.